Hello and welcome. I'm Matt Malik. We discussed a basic overview of how I've gotten this laid out and my theory behind mixing, top down and how to get it nice and balanced. But let's talk a little bit more the geeky elements, which everybody loves. So my master bus, since we are doing top-down mixing, this is where a lot of our heavy lifting is going to be. So let's talk about what I have here, what I've done, and why. The first thing I have is an EQ, and you'll see this on just about every master bus, especially if someone's doing top-down mixing. You're going to see this a lot. So this is pretty zoomed in. It looks more drastic than it is if I go to the default zoom level. I'm not doing a whole lot. I mean, this isn't even a dB, almost a dB, not a dB, not a dB. So I'm doing less than a dB per move here. Now, let's zoom back in. What I wanted to do here is the very rumbly, low energy that honestly doesn't sound very good, and most concert PAs can't even reproduce. Let alone the speakers that most will be listening through. You don't need it. And even this super, super high stuff, I mean, it can sound cool, but I don't hear a difference. So why have it? And I know I'm going to be doing compression later. So this super low stuff that you can't even hear will be hammering that compressor really hard. So I just wanted to get rid of it. You should really not hear a huge difference with this. It's going to get rid of some of that nasty woofiness in there, some of the stuff the kick has in the bass, and should clear it up a little bit. And it's what I want when I compress later. I want to be able to compress the main part of my audio, which is what you're looking at here. So just something to keep in mind. I pretty much always do this little cut here at around 160. That's kind of your low mid woofiness. So it's just 1 dB cut, not very wide. What this does is separates more of the low elements like your bass and your kick from your, the beef in the guitar and your keys and your the really close stuff from the voice that has a lot of bass on it. It just gives you a little separation. So I've always done this. I actually learned it from Streaky. If you look at his YouTube channel, he's got a video on that. And since I started, I haven't stopped. So good thing to try. I noticed my mix without effects was a little dull. So up here in the 8 to 12, 8 to 14 range, just gave it a little boost. It sounded like that's what it needed, so that's what I did. Again, this is just to get it in the ballpark of where you want it. So I'm not doing anything on individual tracks yet. I'm just trying to shape my static mix into sounding close to where I want it. So that's what I came up with. The next two things are both tape emulation, tape saturation. So this plugin, now I want to definitely say I don't want to see these meters moving hardly at all, if at all. I got 2-inch tape because I've heard of that, honestly. Never worked with analog, so this is just something I heard of, so I used it. These are the settings I'm using. I don't think they're that important, but what's important is that it's on there and that it's very, very, very subtle. If I see them moving too much, I know that's pumping some volume and whatnot, and I don't want to do that. I just want color. So this is where I have it, all the way down. So it's barely doing anything. Same with the next one. Make sure the noise is turned all the way down to keep it clean. I'm just using this mastering clean and open setting on it. I like this plugin. That's all it's doing. Just a little bit of color 15 IPS. I think that's typically where 2-inch tape's at. Could be totally wrong on that, but let's just maybe hear what they're doing. Depending on what you're listening on, you may not hear any difference. If you have some nice monitors or headphones, then you might. So let's turn those on and off. Just gives it a nice warmth, and it kind of tames some of the high end a little bit, tames some of that harshness. So I really like the way that sounds. Next, I've got this multi-band compressor, this C4 compressor. So it's got 4 areas. This is just where it's at by default. And then I adjust my little fader guys here till I can grab the peaks in each area. So, and I want to stress the word peaks. We are not smashing audio here. This is just the peaks. So I don't want more than like 2 dB of gain reduction max in each of these sections. So just take a look at what it's doing. So it's just gluing the sound a little bit, and it's taming anything that's coming out a little too much. This guy, I love this plugin. It's an Ssl Master Bus compressor. This has been on Master Buses for decades. So it's tried and true. And my settings here are for gluing again. I don't want more than like 2 decibels of gain reduction here. So nice and slow attack, 30 milliseconds. If I were to do it really fast, basically a compressor is a smart volume knob. What it's saying is, hey, device, once the sound gets to this volume level, bring it down by this much, right? So attack is telling it, hey, do it this quickly. So if we were super fast, 0.1 milliseconds, that's unbelievably fast. It'll say, hey, at this volume level, bring it down this much, this fast. Attack it this quick. So I want to push that out as far as I can. That's just going to allow for the most amount of transients, like your clicking and snare hits and syllables and stuff and from the vocals through without smashing it and cutting it off. It's going to give you the most natural sound. So I have my release set to auto here. That's one of the nice features of this plugin is the auto release is kind of sweet. It's very tasteful. So I kind of rely on that. And my ratio is set to 4, which I think it is by default. Now all we got to do is tell it how much to do. So the threshold is the level at which it's going to start bringing down the audio. So let's look at that. So I've got it at -0.9 just so I can remember. If I let it up all the way, it's not going to be doing anything. And remember, I'm looking for somewhere around 2 to 4 dB gain reduction max. So that's where I want it. And if we turn this on and off, pay attention to like the kick and the snare in comparison and in conjunction with the vocals, just how they kind of blend together when I turn this little checkbox off and on. just sounds glued together and professional. I love it. Honestly, the rest of this is for loudness. I've got 3, so a compressor, a limiter, another limiter, and then kind of a mastering suite that's mainly used as a limiter on this. It's doing a little bit of EQ, but it's mainly used for this maximizer. The whole point of having a couple limiters in a row is to get me some loudness without reducing anything. So I don't want to see any gain reduction on any of these plugins. I just want to get some boost here. So if I turn these off, it's going to be significantly quieter. Let's turn them on. Got a little bit there. So if I would push this all the way up, it would start reducing. I don't want to see any reduction. I don't want it to mess with the audio. This one, I've got about 5 dB. The reason I'm doing that is I don't want this plugin, and I see a lot of people doing this, is they want something like Ozone or Maximizer or whatever, or a limiter, to be doing all of the work. And when it does that, plugins aren't really made to be slammed like this. So it's going to bring down, 7 or 8 dB if you have some of that headroom left. And it's doing too much work. So you're going to see here, I'm only getting maybe 1 dB of gain reduction on this final master, because it's being spread over a few different plugins. So these are each doing a little bit to give me some volume, and then this final plugin is doing my, limiting. So I saw it get up to like 1.6. I had my ceiling a little lower. Just don't want it clipping. So that's it. Actually, this last guy, I learned this from a guy on YouTube. I believe his first name is Colt. He's a country producer. If you look up the video, the magic is in the mids. Brilliant video. Basically, I learned this from him where I've got 2 little cuts here. One is at 200 hertz, and it's a decently steep cut. I'm shelving off all of the low end below that. And then here at 4K, 4000 hertz, again, shelving off the high end. This is designed to help a mix translate wherever it's going. So this could be going to a car, that's pretty unforgiving, onto a cell phone, onto some earbuds, or into an arena. Whatever it is, it needs to be able to translate and sound good everywhere. So this is a way that he had come up with to make that happen. If your mid-range can sound solid and sound good, if your mix can sound good in just the mid-range, it's going to sound good everywhere. So if I turn this on, it's going to be kind of like listening through cell phone speakers or crappy earbuds. So listen to what this is doing. And listen to how this mix sounds through it. So obviously I'm not going to be leaving that on and mixing the whole time through it. That's going to make your ears kind of adjust strangely. It's just to check myself. Same with like mixing in mono. Some people will do that. They'll throw it in mono just to see if there are any frequencies really stacking. You you still want to be able to hear all your elements. Another good trick is turn your mix down. So you should be able to hear like a conversation happening next to you if it was in the same room, whether you're on monitors or headphones. And if your mix sounds decent at this level, it's going to translate well. The idea here is your ears are going to last longer without getting tired, and you will be able to hear some things sticking out that you couldn't at a higher level. Just naturally, your ears will be able to hone into things that you couldn't hear when they were being tricked up a little higher. Louder equals better in our ears, right? So just take a listen to this. All right, so I mean, it sounds, a lot of times I'll mix at this level for a while. And then when you bring it up, you're going to notice, man, that really actually made a big difference. Just give it a shot. Little tip there. So that's my master bus. And I'm exporting here around -0.4. Just, I know there's some noise involved in conversion to MP3 and going between, different devices and whatnot. So I don't like it to be straight up to 0. And I certainly don't want it to go over 0. So hopefully you learned something here about the master bus doing this top-down mixing method, and we'll be getting into individual instruments and the buses here pretty soon. So thanks for tuning in, and God bless.